Listen to it.
Hey, wait till I'm off this board. I'll be talking about you guys all the time.
All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Board of Public Works together on October 26th, 2017. Diane, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Donches,
Here.
Commissioner Bergeron,
Here?
Commissioner Pappas,
Here?
Commissioner Moriarty,
Here?
Commissioner Ackerman,
Present?
And we also have Alderman Siegel, who's the liaison from the Board of Aldermen. Is there a motion regarding the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Is there a motion regarding the minutes of the last meeting?
Move to approve the minutes of the Board of Public Works meeting of September 28th, 2017.
Second the motion?
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the board? Please, you have to turn the microphone on green before you begin. And even though we know you, please just give your name and address.
Mike Broderick, 8 Boxwood Court. I have another meeting to attend to, so I'll be brief. I want to speak about the paging at Stella Stadium. I'm not sure if that is the Board of Public Works' domain or not, but there's no, you can't announce anything before noontime. I know it was the previous mayor put a stop on that, but the kids who play PAL football there, they go to a lot of different stadiums. They love hearing their name announced and everything. And last Sunday, there was a race there, and they were making announcements at the field. It was very embarrassing in 2016 and 9/11. We could not even play the Star Spangled Banner because it was before noontime. So I don't know if this is on the auspices of the board, but if it is, I would urge them to try to change that policy because the children love to hear their names while they're playing the game. And if we could play the Star Spangled Banner when they start, I think that would be a great thing for the city. I know the neighbors don't like it, but you can't do construction starting at 8 o'clock. So I don't know why we can't announce the game or play the Star Spangled Banner at the field.
So we will check into that
Okay.
situation. I think there's some operating agreement between the city and the school department, but we can get that clarified.
Okay.
Commissioner Pappas.
I just didn't get the beginning. I'm sorry, I was a little disorganized coming in last minute. Which state?
Stellos,
Oh, that
where
is
they play the
Stellos.
PAL football games, for the children.
And at what time?
Well, the first game, the younger group starts at 8 o'clock. My grandson plays at 10, and then there are other ages going on from 12 o'clock. So what they did at one time, we started announcing at noontime for the kids, and the kids all looked up and were like, oh, they hear their name, the young children, and they like those accolades and the names, so that's all.
Okay.
All right?
It looks like Mr. Caggiano wants,
Do you have anything to add on this? Okay, Mr. Caggiano, maybe you can answer the question.
that would be really helpful.
I forgot that you would probably know the answer.
Nick Caggiano, Park and Rec Superintendent. When the stadium was built in 2001, the planning board from the neighbors in back of the stadium, there's a planning board stipulation for the agreement to operate the stadium, and the planning board set in their stipulation that the sound system at the stadium may not be used before noon on Sundays, just to give them peace of mind, I guess. That was one of the rules. When there's road races, they do bring in, at the end, it's not in the stadium. The stadium PA is not used for road races. They bring their own system, and they usually kick the race off over by the entrance to Mine Falls Park, which has nothing to do with the stadium. So there's a specific planning board stipulation regarding the stadium. So in order to have that lifted, and I'm not 100%, but I think someone would have to petition the planning board to look at that again.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Representative David Lyle of the New Hampshire State House, Ward 8, Nashua. I want to thank the commission and the city for the events at Nashua Airport, the Wheels and Wings event, as well as the skate park opening, and having booths and making the Public Works Department visible to the public to be able to interact and get to know the critical role that they play in our city's operations.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? If not, let's go on to the engineering department.
I'll move to approve the residential and commercial wastewater service permit fees as submitted.
Motion by Commissioner Pappas. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Oh, and I did not announce that at the beginning of the meeting, I'm sorry, that Lisa Photo, Director of Public Works, is not here because she is ill, and therefore Assistant Director, Mr. Patrician, is sitting in for her. I should have made that clear. Back to the agenda. Item B.
I'll move to approve drain layers license for Midway Utility Contractors, LLC, 106 Ledge Street, Seabrook, New Hampshire, 03874, in accordance with Nashua City Code 255-19, issuance of drain layers license.
Second the motion.
Discussion. Commissioner Moriarty.
I just had one question regarding, in general, the drain layers license. When that's given, is that for a particular project, or is that an annual license once it is given?
That's an annual license.
An annual. That's it?
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item C is an informational update on the 2017 paving program. So Mr. Dukran, I assume, is going to update us? Or are you going to just submit the report?
I think the report is self-explanatory. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
So the report is in the package. Is there any discussion, questions? Commissioner Pappas?
I know in years past, sometimes we would read it so that folks who are watching the meeting could hear their street. Fortunately, that it's a longer list than it used to be, so it's rather lengthy. So I guess my question, I don't know if it's more for the engineer or for the assistant director. Do we have this right in an easy to see spot on the city website, or if we can put it actually in front of our agenda? Because I think it's important to keep people updated, because we have, we've invested significant funds for the program. So I don't mind us breaking up who wants to read what streets are being done, but I would like it to be a place that's, certainly visible. Or what the pleasure of the board would be, I'm sorry.
So are the three lists we're looking at here, one consisting of 57 streets, another of 17, and
Right.
a third of 15, are they on the website?
Yes, they are on the website. I don't think I have a good judgment as to whether it's easy to find on the website. For me, it's easy. I would
And can you
rely on
describe
others.
where it is?
This list is, we have, it's called street construction. Is that what it's called?
On the main page.
I'm asking Diane.
Construction and tours.
At one time, it used to be on the dashboard. It was actually,
Right.
I'm not sure if it is or not. It'd be easy enough to,
It is an icon right on the main page
yeah,
there.
that's what I thought.
And what is the
Construction
icon called?
Construction detours and paving.
So if you go to the main city page and look to the icon of construction, detours, and paving, and you click that on just for the public who might be watching, you can view the three lists we're looking at, which include the work, the list of streets that have been finished, the list of streets that's in progress, and the list of streets we're hoping to get to before the weather breaks.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
I guess just for, if for whatever reason someone has problems with the icon, it should be in our packet, because it's in our packet.
Right.
So if we go, if someone for whatever reason was unable to find it in that section, it will, if they go far enough in our meeting packet, they should be able to see that lengthy list.
And you would find that under the agenda for this current meeting.
Right, correct.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Yeah, worthy chair. Thank you, Mr. Dukran. This is a really great report. I guess I had one little question, just kind of my own edification, if you will. This is the 2007 paving program, and this, if I'm not mistaken, is representative of the funding from the annual budget that we had for 2017, as well as the extended bond program. Does this also include the monies that would be potentially coming back from the Parkway funding?
Right, so you're talking about a $4.4 million of surplus Parkway funding. Those streets are not on the list yet. The schedule is to get them done next year. We are going through the state process in getting the project approved. We've provided plans, and we continue to submit changes to the plans and the documents associated with the project.
Okay, that's great. Just one quick follow-up question. Beyond these particular streets, which is great, it represents 89 different streets that were identified for 2017. Do you recall how many streets are on the earmark for the next fiscal year at all?
Right. Those streets, we're going through the process of selecting those streets. I can't tell you how many streets in number.
Okay.
But our goal is to do about 20 miles. The program that Stantec presented included 20 miles a year for 10 years. So that's our goal.
Okay, great. And one last follow-up question. At what point do you think that might be visible to the residents of Nashua on our website?
We're hoping by late December. What we're looking at possibly 2 contracts for next spring. But we want to do the selection, we want to do the coordination with the utilities and the sewer program, and have the contract documents ready to go to bid. So I think we can zero in on the list, finalize the list by the end of December, so we can start working on those contract documents.
Excellent. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bergeron.
Are we on schedule for the streets that are in progress? I know we've had a bunch of rain and things now, but are we on schedule? Because the other side of now we're doing all this work, a lot of people have contacted me and say, when is my street going to be finished, and what have you.
Right.
So
So the original contract for 2017, using the annual money, that's complete. And then we took on another 41 streets with the bonded money. And we've done a number of them, completed. And we have prepared, we have milled those streets for another set. And we're waiting for good weather to pave those streets. The rains, presenting a setback. And then we're going to take on the rest, as the weather allows. We don't think we're going to hit all of them. Simply too many. We run out of time. But the contractor is going to work with us to, because what you do, you mill, you open up the street, and then you have to, step-by-step process. You got to do the structures and so on. And you don't want to open them all up and then find out that you can't get them done prior to very cold weather.
right, that was the question for some of the residents whose streets have been milled, and then obviously there's a lag time between mill versus paving, and they're going to be done before winter, and I said yes, but obviously we.
Right. Well, those that have been milled, those are definitely going to
Definitely
be
be done,
paved.
right.
Yes. But the ones that we haven't touched yet, it'll be touch and go, based on the weather.
And just back to getting the information out there, and this is an incredible amount of streets, 89 streets. I know a while back we were talking about 33 streets, so maybe we could even put out some kind of a press release to the Telegraph and maybe the mayor's Facebook, Twitter account, and maybe just kind of, I know you've put some things out there, but, you know, you're still hearing people, the streets aren't being done, but this is an incredible amount of streets, certainly if they haven't done yours or your neighborhood, but compared to what we've been doing, the 4 or 5 miles, 20 miles is an incredible number in 89 streets, so. Anyways, I digress.
Anyone else? Commissioner Pappas?
I guess I do think it's terrific we have that rule that you can't cut into a road after it's brand new paved. How much of a heads up, 2 cents, we can give folks?
Okay, so typically we try to do 2 to 3 months, hoping that someone who wants to get, say, gas, change out their propane or oil furnaces. So 2 to 3 months is usually what we have the luxury of doing. In this last round where we were trying to cram some streets in this fall, we give about 6 to 8 weeks. And the responses are there just hardly anyone wanted to do anything different, so we were able to move forward with those.
Thank you.
As you know, the more time you can give, the better off people would be.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anyone else? If not, thank you very much. And our next item is also an informational item, item D, a memo regarding the sewer permit fee structure. Commissioner Pappas.
I think this was a very well put-together memo. I certainly appreciate it. And it's funny, sometimes we sit here, for many years, many meetings, and we don't think of those kinds of things. And, certainly, my hat goes off to Commissioner Moriarty to say, you know what, these fees have been in place for quite some time. I know our meetings can be long, and they aren't particularly exciting. I would really like us to take a look at this, and there are a couple of other items, in a special meeting. And if it has to be during the day, that's fine. The one thing I'd ask during the day, that it's somewhere between 9 and 2:30, because I have to pick up my daughter at school by 3. But I certainly think it's worth taking a look at, because it's been years and years and years and years since we've taken a look at these permit fees. And just to see if we can switch these on our own, if it needs any sort of aldermanic intervention too. I don't know how other people feel, but I think that this memo is terrific. It was very well researched. And, as I said, sometimes we take a look at things and, wow, that's the way it is. And it was nice to have a short meeting last month, so we're able to, to think of these things in detail. And I think that was, I think it was an excellent point made. And it was a great point made. And I think that this memo was absolutely very well written, very well researched, and I appreciate it, certainly.
So the request is that we schedule a meeting, maybe during the daytime, to go over in detail the issue of the sewer charges, which are summarized in the memo, having not been revised since 1982.
Not that I would mind an evening meeting. I mean, if, either one would work, but I think that sometimes is better to the public, but I don't know, if the public would come. But since we you know, whichever the druthers of people's schedule is, that's fine. But as I said, it's not gonna be exactly the most exciting meeting where you're sending fireworks off. But I think it's extremely important, and I think, anyway, so those are my thoughts.
So-
Whether they be at 5:30, whether it be, if it's, you know, it's gonna be a special meeting, if it's during the day, I would just ask that we do it when I don't have to pick up kids at school. Thank you.
That we can do, and unless another commissioner has an objection, we will, when Lisa returns, we will undertake to schedule a meeting regarding sewer fees and to talk about the memo in detail. I do remember that back in the 80s, I think the $600 was not even, didn't cover the cost, but it was more like half. Now it's 10%, so obviously this needs to be reviewed. So we will work to schedule a meeting. There's nothing else on that item. Item E is there a motion on item E?
I will make a motion, and I'd like to speak to it. I move to accept the resignation of Gene Walker, Deputy Manager of Engineering, effective November 3rd, 2017.
Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Commissioner Pappas.
This is a huge loss to the division. I think that we still have, if I'm not mistaken, I still think we have one more vacancy in engineering that's been vacant for some time. And engineers are so important to our division, and I know that sometimes they can, that sometimes the engineers have to be the adult in the room that says you can't do that because of certain reasons. I also recognize that part of our issue is that perhaps in the private sector, that they do pay more for engineers. The other issue we have that I really would like us to take a look at, salary schedules and that sort of thing, that perhaps other municipalities and towns are under the state retirement system as opposed to our retirement system. I know ours is that we have a separate retirement system for the Public Works Division. And I think that we might take a look at what, number one, what we're paying our engineers. And I think that numbers are somewhat easy to figure out because I do recognize that I think that the state retirement system is more generous than our Public Works retirement system, which is what makes us I think probably the most cost-effective division in the city. That being said, we can't function without engineers, and it seems as if a good portion of Ms. Walker's job schedule has to do with wastewater issues, which a good portion of our engineering does. I don't know if we want to take a look at finding headhunters, but I think the fact that we're going to be 2 engineers down, I think is a very big concern of mine. Aside from that, I think that Ms. Walker is a terrific person. She has done a great job for the city, and I think that she will be greatly missed. And I will, it's interesting, I think Ms. Gill came a few meetings ago to give a presentation, and she's someone from our engineering department. And it was quite obvious that a good portion of our commissioners weren't familiar with who she was. And I will say, 10 years ago, when I started, our meetings were at 5:30. All our engineers were, did go to our meetings, and if we did have a question, our questions were answered by the engineers that the director best thought could answer them. And I don't think that we will I don't think that this division could function without our engineers, and I take my hat off to them. And I wish Ms. Walker well. I know she's headed to a town as opposed to a city, and I understand that we all have to take personal professional opportunities as best we can, but I can say that I think that this is a huge loss to the city. And I don't know if we have to get a headhunter to get some sort of replacement, but this is a huge loss. And that being said, I wish Ms. Walker well. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Ms. Walker for her years of service for the city. She's been with us for how long?
13.
13 years, yeah. So, and she's certainly done a good job, as Commissioner Pappas has suggested, and I do wish her the best in her new position, which I believe is with the town of Bedford.
Yes.
Commissioner Bergeron.
I want to thank Ms. Walker for her service as well, and to Commissioner Pappas's point, at the county level, we've had a bunch of resignations recently, and what we found with the low unemployment rate, like 2.5 or 2.7% in New Hampshire, what we're finding is when we go to hire some of the higher level management people, we're paying as much or more as people who had been in the positions for 20 years, 25 years, 15 years, 13 years, whatever the case may be. And we're actually having to pay people with less experience more money to fill those positions. So we might, as a well, I won't be around much longer, but as a board, that might be something we, to Commissioner Pappas's point, we'd have to look in the engineering department and some of the departments. I know we have a wastewater treatment position as well, and we may want to look at the pay scales of those versus communities of similar size. That's what they did at the county level. And then when they showed us, it's like, no, you're not going to get somebody with that level of experience for X amount of money. So we may have to, as a board, kind of look at that going forward to make sure that you have the right staff.
Any other comments?
Can I direct a question to either? Mayor, you may not know the answer to this. Is a city, can we use a headhunter or not?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I know that we have bid processes and that kind of thing. Because I think that might be an interesting avenue for us to.
Well, we have to post positions. There are various procedures we have to follow, but I believe we could use a headhunter when we reach the posting outside stage of the hiring process. I believe we could, and I assume we would be looking for people to apply and still hire the most qualified, but we could check that out for sure.
Because it seems as if wastewater, we've had that go unfilled for quite some time, and also, I can't recall, I thought we had a junior engineer who, I think it was health reasons that the individual left, and I think that's been not filled, and I don't recall the timeline.
That one has been filled.
Oh, good.
But
Great.
we do have a position that's been open for a while, and I'll let you know. I don't know if there aren't people out there, but we are just not getting qualified applicants.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, all those in favor of the motions, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes, and the resignation of Jean Walker is accepted with regret. Street Department.
I'll move to approve the selection of Kelly Hodgson of Bedford, New Hampshire, to the position of street foreman. Street department salary for this position will be $31.08 per hour, funding through Department 161, Street Department Fund, General Account Classification 51, salary and wages.
We have Mr. Barov here from the Street Department, and I believe Mr. Hodgson is here as well. He's in the audience.
Yep.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Pappas. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I think it's very well, I think that the position's very well filled, and I think it's terrific. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Mr. Hodgson is promoted, and congratulations. Thank you very much. Item B.
I'll move to approve the selection of James Young of Milford, New Hampshire, to the position of Mason Pipe Layer, Street Department. Starting salary for the position will be $23.42 per hour, funding through Department 161, Street Department Fund, General Account Classification 51, salary and wages.
Second the motion.
Discussion?
Another very good
Commissioner
appointment.
Moriarty.
Thank you, Mayor. Question I had is just a general question, not on this applicant, but I brought this up before. On the application process, there's not a segment to signify whether they have a CDL license. We would like to know that as board members, that these people we're hiring do have that classification. I'm sure the last applicant did, since he's been with the city for so many years, but I'm not sure about this applicant, who is a new hire, an external applicant. So I don't know why that can't be on the application. It seems crazy that it's not on it for our
I believe
purposes.
it's in his application, and he does have a CDL.
Not
whether-
paperwork that we get.
Okay. We'll work at getting that for you.
Yeah, can you get that in the form?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Pappas.
Commissioner Moriarty has been asking for this for quite some time. I think is important for us to see that. And then the other issue, even if we can redact items from someone's license, like whether it's your regular license or your CDL license, I think it's really important to see if someone's if you got a bunch of speeding tickets, if you've run red lights and that sort of thing. And I may have missed it.
If I may. Okay, so include that information. We do have a vetting process, though. As they go through the hiring process, Risk does check their license.
Right, but, I mean, as I said, to the point, I'm sure that we don't just accept anyone, but I think for us to have to take a look and approve it, I think that's a very good point that Commissioner Moriarty's made for quite some time. But I think both items are really important.
We usually don't vet them license-wise until the board has approved them, is my understanding, which might be a little backwards, but
It's
if
done,
there's
that's
a
done by
problem.
HR after they're hired. HR required
Okay, which-
does that.
I mean, I don't know if as a board, if we would have to change the process. But that's, thanks for the knowledge on that. But I do think that that's somewhat important. I mean, if someone's blown a bunch of red lights, or even in their personal license, I mean, hopefully most people would drive a truck much more carefully than they drive a car.
Sure.
But if they've gotten in trouble with just driving their personal vehicle, you might want to know that also. Thank you.
If we did find something, ultimately, they wouldn't be hired. I hear what you're saying. So we could have to look into how maybe we could streamline that.
Right, because I think that, and it's, I don't think it's us so much as HR. I think HR, as far as this employer board goes, has been very slow at kind of keeping up and putting forward recommendations made by this board. I know it's been quite some time that Commissioner Moriarty has been asking that, and I am absolutely certain that, you know, the director and anyone else from here sends that information forward to HR, so I don't think that it's a dereliction of duty from our administration.
I honestly don't see, if we have a viable candidate that we want to bring forward, we should be able to run their license. And I really don't think that'll be a problem. I don't
Okay.
think anybody's ever approached it.
Right.
We can certainly check into that process.
Yeah, because as I said, I know that, I have absolutely no doubt that the administration here follows up on the requests that we make. So, you know, I think it might be a disconnect between that it might be HR that's dropping the ball on it. Thank you.
Certainly check it out.
Commissioner Bergeron.
Maybe just for the short term in the discussion period on the cover sheet, you could just add that they have a current CDL license. That certainly
Absolutely.
wouldn't have the checks, but at least, because you do has the required knowledge and experience with
Right.
construction and masonry work, maybe you could just include and has
Will do, moving forward.
CDL license. Because I know this is a template form that's probably hard to tweak, but maybe that would at least help for the short.
Right, but it's, yeah.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. John, thank you for doing this. Looks like the process of vetting him during the hiring process was well done. When we bring on people similar to this role within the street department, or we hire them, are they hired out of the gate, or is there a 30, 60, 90-day probationary?
There's a 60-day probationary period currently.
Okay, and can you just expand upon, what do they do, what do you do just to make sure that they can do the on-the-job type of?
Monitor through their foreman,
Okay,
through their tasks that they're assigned, progress or any failures, see if we can improve them.
okay, very good, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Item C.
I'll move to approve the abolishment of one truck driver position and create one mason pipe layer position at the street department.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Pappas.
Maybe just for the folks watching, the superintendent just, even though it is in our packet, that folks know why we abolish some positions and create new ones for the flexibility.
Sure.
Thanks.
Based on our current workload and looking ahead to next season's work, the sidewalk expansion projects, the rehabilitations, we could really use another mason. It doesn't impact the driving pool, because this person has a CDL, or the position will require a CDL, so they'll be able to plow. So it just improves our daily operations. We're shy, we have just a handful of masons, and it's a skilled trade, so it'd be nice with the amount of work we have looking forward.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Ackerman.
yeah, just a question. So this particular position that you're creating was the one that we just approved on the previous motion, is that correct?
No,
Or is this
that is not correct. We had a vacant
a net new
mason
one?
position,
Okay,
so that gentleman moved over to Park and Rec
Oh, yeah.
earlier this year, and we're filling that with this hire, and I want to expand one more.
very good, thank you.
Commissioner Bergeron.
Thank you for this superintendent that's being proactive. I mean, that's what people are doing in private industry, seeing where the people are needed, and so you're not adding a position, you're just better utilizing the current staff, so that's a good move.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move to approve the contract for winter road salt with Granite, State Concrete, Milford, New Hampshire, for the bid price of $11.70 per ton. Total of this purchase will be 1,367 tons delivered, or a budgeted value of $16,000. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund General, account classification 51 Supplies and Material.
Second the motion?
Discussion?
Winter's coming, unfortunately.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now have Parks and Recreation. Mr. Caggiano. In case there are questions. Item A,
To approve the naming of the pickleball courts at Fields Grove Park after Doug Price.
Second the motion?
and if we go forward with this, can we hold a little ceremony over there with Mr. Price?
Yes, we can. Might not be till the spring.
Okay.
Most of the pickleballers head to,
Might be fun.
head
Don't-
south
don't
in the
you
winter.
think? We could go over and watch a game or something like that? Commissioner Bergeron?
We spoke on this, I've met Mr. Price a couple times I don't know if it was last year, or the year before, when they were wanting to do work over at the pickleball courts, and I had gone over and visited them, and there was a whole bunch of people playing pickleball, and it looked pretty simple, and they said, "Why don't you play?" And I, the big runner, I mean, this will be nothing, and two ladies basically wiped me clean on the pickleball court, and I had to make some excuse, I had an appointment and left, but it's actually a lot of fun, and I know you've expanded, actually you have it at Greeley as well now, pickleball course, but he's just a wonderful gentleman, and what a testament to him that all these people have signed this letter, and they're just a great group of people. So if you ever have a chance to go and play or watch, I mean, look how many people signed this. This is like incredible. He's just a great man, and if you just Google pickleball, and it's like there's a state association, a national association, and it's just it's a pretty cool sport, and definitely I was not fit to play it.
Just to be clear, Mayor, we didn't add any courts at Greeley Park. When we repainted, we put both lines down. So there was no expansion. It was just multiple use.
No expansion, no expansion. I didn't spend any money.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move to accept and place on file the note from, a thank you note from the Wheels and Wings chair.
Second the motion?
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Caggiano. Wastewater Department, we have Ms. Osborne here. Item A.
I'll move to approve the user warrants as presented.
Second the motion?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B.
I'll move to approve the change order 7 for Headworks upgrades contract with T-Buck Construction, Inc. in the amount of $62,673.11. Funding will be through Department 169 wastewater fund, SRF loan activity, Headworks upgrades.
Second the motion?
Discussion? Commissioner Moriarty.
There was, I think this was the motion where we are adding a viewing port.
Yes,
Can you explain that? Because I wasn't quite sure what the purpose of that viewing port was.
absolutely. Noelle Osborne, Plant Operations Supervisor, Wastewater. So the new headworks of the facility comes up 3 stories. It starts in the wet well, goes through the 2nd story and into the 3rd story where it dumps into the wash press. Those wash presses take the material, put it into closed conveyors, and take it out into the truck bay. Because of the nature of wastewater and because of the Class 1 Div 1 status, which is explosion-proof, it has to maintain an explosion-proof space, we can only have so many openings in the room. It has one entrance and exit from the room. In order to make sure there's no problems in the truck bay, the operators would have to go out a door, around, and come into the garage. It is a more efficient use of time and energy to be able to look out a window. It's essentially a window. It's just not able to open because of that explosion-proof status.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Noel, assuming this does get approved, is this something that's going to be done between now and the end of the calendar year, or when's
Yes.
the schedule? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item C.
I'll move to approve the change order number 1, the digester cleaning with Denali Wastewater Solutions, the amount of $48,400. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, account classification 81, building improvements.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Item D.
I'll move to approve the SCADA upgrades contract to Electrical Installations, Inc. of Milton, Borough, New Hampshire, in the amount of $591,280. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, wharf activity SCADA upgrades.
You didn't want to spend that money. You couldn't save 591,000.
I don't write my
You couldn't
checks
save
out like that.
591,000.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes.
I'll move to approve the selection of Mr. Richard L. Fournier of Hudson, New Hampshire, to the position of mechanic wastewater, first-class wastewater treatment plant. Starting salary for the position is $26.97 per hour. Funding through Department 169 Wastewater Fund. Account classification 51, salary and wages.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Osborne.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So I see that we have under the administration, the informational and the state aid grant program. And we just obviously approved a whole bunch of money for the wastewater treatment plant. A while back, I had asked about the report for 2015 that came from Weston and Sampson about an update on those, whether we're on schedule with that. Is there an updated WRF schedule that we could get as well?
Yes, there is. Yep.
Because we keep referencing WRF, and I always like to check and just see where we're on track with what the money that we're spending. And then that Weston and Sampson report, we were gonna, from 2015, which recommended a lot of this work.
Yeah.
The director was gonna give us a report on it. I'm sure she just,
Yeah, that'll probably be next month, unfortunately.
okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah, we have been working on
We're
it
proving
together.
a lot of money over there. And I know it's on the schedule, but it'd be good to have an update on where we're at as far as that report goes. And then one other question?
Yes,
Is Mr.
Commissioner
Cantu done with the city, with the wastewater?
He has about 6 more weeks of his contract left with us.
Okay. Are we replacing him or extending his contract, or is he?
He's formally retiring to Florida. There won't be an extension of his contract at all.
Had no
Okay.
warmer climate.
From the wastewater treatment plant in Nashua to Florida. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Pappas.
This actually doesn't, and I'm sorry if I interrupted anyone. I feel kind of badly because we had asked, just before, I just want this before the director's report, and it probably might have been under engineering. There had been some questions about some of the lights, and Mr. Husband showed up, so hopefully we'll be able to get some update before we start the director's report, if that's okay with the chair.
That's fine. Anybody else? So what we're on the last administrative item, we still have the, excuse me, we've completed the last wastewater item. We've still got the administrative section of the agenda, but why don't we bring Mr. Hudson up, Mr. Husband, to answer any questions regarding traffic, streetlights. Thank you very much for coming. Commissioner Pappas.
We had some very good answers about, there were a lot of questions about the Henry Burke Highway, the light, particularly where it intersects with Manchester Street, where the Pennachuck School is there. If you can just take a walk through it. I think it's a little confusing, and I've often got complaints, well, why didn't we throw salt down on the Henry Burke Highway? And I explained, well, that's not a city road, it's actually a state road. And, because I think part of what's confusing about the light, I think at the intersection, one is a city street and one is a state highway. And my recollection, unless I have it incorrect, unless I haven't timed my intersections there, I don't think we ever have a yellow blinking light on Manchester Street, just because and maybe I didn't show up there at the correct time. And then, once you can take us through the Manchester Street intersection at Henry Burke, I just have just a couple of things that I think that people have asked about regarding our MISD program, when we tried to coordinate some of the lights in just places in the city where the light coordination might be difficult. But right now, if you can just explain, just go into full explanation just for the public, how that intersection has changed at Manchester Henry Burke. I think that you did, that you and the director and the engineering department did a great job explaining to us in email how that intersection has changed. But I think it's really helpful for the public to understand why the changes were made and exactly what's going on over there. Thank you.
Okay, Wayne Husband, Senior Traffic Engineer, City of Nashua. Probably about 8 years ago, New Hampshire DOT called the city and they asked if we'd be interested in installing some of the amber flashing arrows, because they, Federal Highway and DOT were really pushing them as a potential safer indication for traffic to yield on the amber flashing arrow than to yield on the green ball. In simplistic terms, the green ball, yield on green ball, green means go to most people, whereas the amber flashing arrow is a whole different indication where it says proceed with caution. So that, I was kind of reluctant to want to do it back about 8 years ago. I preferred to watch and see how this was playing out in other communities. They have some in Concord, they have some in Manchester. There's one that I can think of in Milford. And having monitored them over the years, they look like they've been received pretty well, and they have a pretty good track record with this amber flashing arrow. So more recently, I've had a lot of communications from constituents wondering why the city of Nashua hasn't pursued the amber flashing arrow, because they see it in other communities. You see it a lot in Massachusetts now. So I decided that it's probably time that we try this amber flashing arrow at, some of our intersections in the city. We installed it at the intersection of the Main Dunstable Road and Northeastern Boulevard. I don't know if you've been through there, but we have had a lot of positive feedback on the installation at that intersection. A lot of you probably drive through it, but during the peak hours, there were at times during the day, during the peak times, where people only having the green arrow to go on, the traffic would back up from the intersection of Northeastern Boulevard, and at times it would go back through the Main Dunstable Road that takes you to Dunkin' Donuts. So they couldn't get into that left stacking lane. But since we put in the amber flashing arrow, a lot of those left turns that would be waiting have cleared out, because the indication on the for the left turn is to amber flashing arrow yield to oncoming traffic, and people for the most part are being pretty respectful of that there has been some concern that there are close calls or something like that, but that's more driver behavior than anything else. So, having given you that history, we really were looking for a place where we might be able to install another amber flashing arrow without spending city money. Because they do own that intersection, Henry Burke. And they were very receptive towards helping us out because they want to see some of these installed in the city. The way that works at Henry Burke Highway, where some of the confusion may be coming in, is that I asked them to leave the intersection of Henry Burke and Manchester Street the same as it's always been during the peak traffic times, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 2:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Part of the reason for leaving that way was I didn't want to create any confusion for the school traffic, because there's a school right there. But all other times of the day, they once the greens started on Henry Burke Highway, eventually the flashing amber arrow will come up. And as people see opportunities to cross safely, they can do that without waiting. A lot of people get really frustrated when they sit at a traffic signal, myself included, and they wait there for 20, 30 seconds on a red arrow or a red ball when they see no oncoming traffic coming. So that's part of the reason for the installation as we did it. And we're also looking to install another amber flashing arrow on Broad Street at Coburn Ave, I think it is.
Dublin.
On,
Dublin?
Dublin, thank you, yes. Broad Street at Dublin. I know that's a long-winded response, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of the history. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I can follow up with them.
So most of the feedback you've gotten has been positive?
It's been pretty positive. There are some that are concerned, because it is a change to some. When I first installed it, I've been watching it, and there's a lot of different communities with what appeared to be a lot of success. So I didn't really perceive it to be a big change, but in hindsight, it's something that maybe I should have come before the board and let them know that we're going to be doing this, to inform the board so that they could inform the public. I didn't think of doing that. I'll try to be more mindful of trying to think how other people might perceive these things in the future.
Commissioners gotten any feedback on this, on the Manchester Street? Commissioner Pappas?
I will give you, it's funny, I'll give you my feedback, but I just want to, I know that you're an engineer and you may use different, you say amber. The
Yellow.
general public will probably say yellow.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So.
Engineers say amber.
All right. So I will tell you that I've received negative feedback, and a lot of it's from folks who probably have to take the left-hand turn if you're going down Henry Burke in either direction and you're doing the left. I'm someone who usually go, I will often go straight. I've used that intersection a ton since we've changed the lights, because I have gotten some negative feedback. And I think that most people wouldn't say, I think it's terrific, I can blow through and not have to stop to go straight on Henry Burke and wait for the left. And I will admit, it's really nice not to have to sit and wait for it, but I think the two intersections that you've discussed, the Northeastern Boulevard, I think that particular intersection is very different from where Henry Burke and Manchester Street meets. And I don't think that traffic gets backed up a whole lot waiting to take a left on Manchester in either direction on Henry Burke. And it is very convenient not to have to stop if you're going straight. I've gotten mostly negative feedback, and again, I think that those are folks who have to take the lefts a lot. And I guess my only concern, I fully understand we want to keep traffic moving, and people do get frustrated, and then they're going to blow through the lights. I see why you would want to take that change, because if you know, okay, I'm probably going to have to wait for the light to go straight, and there's no one going to take a left, and you're gonna head straight through the yellow light, and I understand that can have a safety concern. But the fears that I have, that people, if they know they're not gonna have to stop for that light, that it's 40 miles an hour on that road, and I would be afraid that's gonna go up to 45, maybe 50, if people know that light's not gonna switch. And I was very reassured the director had, and between you and the director, you let us know that that you'd be willing to keep an eye on that and maybe take some, maybe do some traffic studies. I don't know how other people feel. My guess is people who go straight are probably happy that they don't have to stop for the light. But I think most of the people, I don't know what other commissioners have heard, but the people I've heard from who've been negative are the ones that have to take the left. So.
And what do they say? I mean, what do they?
They don't know, they don't quite know what to do, and then sometimes I think that they're more likely to step on the accelerator and take their left, and they're afraid that there might be more accidents. So, I mean, as someone who goes straight, I think I do think that it's been a time saver, it's really nice, but I've been in those left-hand lanes just because I've had a lot of concerns expressed about it. I was very happy to see the hours in which those lights, I think that you did a great job picking out the hours as to when it's gonna do the old way during school time. And many of us don't like change, and it's probably gonna take a while for people to get used to it. But I will tell you that every negative I heard was from people that did have to take the left.
If I could, Mayor, the one thing that they probably don't see on Henry Burke Highway at Manchester Street for the left turns that you're talking about is that the traffic is lighter on Henry Burke than it is on Main Dunstable Road, as you said. What happens is that there's enough opportunity to turn left on the amber flashing arrow during the non-peak times, so that when it comes time to service the green arrow for the left turns, it never comes up during the off-peak times because there's nobody, the detection's not picking it up. So they're probably thinking that they don't still get the green arrow during the off-peak times, but if there's traffic there, they would. So if the residents are unsure or feel unsafe turning left on the yellow flashing arrow, they should know that they will eventually get serviced by a green arrow if they sit there. They don't have to go on that yellow arrow if they're uncomfortable.
Can I ask one? Can I ask another question? Do you have a sense as to how long it takes folks to get used to the new traffic patterns? Because I definitely see the benefit to that, but just to tell people to hang in there, how long, do you have a sense as to how long it takes?
It varies. I mean, we've basically changed all the traffic, all the timing of all the signals in the city of Nashua, or at least about 70 of them, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And we went through a series of timing and adjustments and stuff like that. And the concerns have really, really died off over the last few years since then. So it takes people some time to get used to things, particularly us people that live here in the Northeast. We're kind of set in our ways. When we see changes like that, I'll admit when it first came out 8 years ago and when they asked me to put it in, I was reluctant to want to do it, simply because it was new, it was different, but as I look at the yellow flashing arrows now, I got to learn the yellow word, but as I look at those now, I look at it as another toolkit. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. But we're in an era where you can't really widen roads anymore to increase capacity, so you look at other ways to reduce delays or increase capacity, and the amber flashing arrow happens to be one of those applications that we might be able to use to do some of that. It certainly helped at Main Dunstable and Northeastern.
And what did you say what are you thinking about in terms of the timing for the flashing yellow on Dublin Ave and Broad Street?
The flashing yellow arrow comes on, only comes on prior to 6 a.m. in the morning. Then it stays in the old way of operations till 9 a.m. So amber flashing arrow, then no amber flashing arrow from 6 to 9. It's just green, yellow, red.
And this
Then-
is at Dublin?
No, this is at Henry Burke at Manchester Street.
No, but I was thinking, my question was, you talked, I think, about possibly installing
Yeah,
this at
at
Dublin.
Broad at Dublin.
What are you thinking the time frame on that is? Meaning
Well, I'm
a
open.
month and 6 months, or what do you,
I was hoping to get that done prior to winter.
prior to winter?
Yeah.
Meaning December or something like that?
Yeah.
Commissioner Ackerman?
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Mayor.
your neighborhood, along with Commissioner Bergeron.
Absolutely.
Give you priority on this discussion.
Well, actually, my neighborhood is closer to Main Dunstable and Northeastern Boulevard. And if I'm not, correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, that's a yellow amber left directional onto Northeastern Boulevard, just one lane, correct? There's
There's just one approach, yeah. the
one
on the
approach
left,
there.
yeah.
And I think it's great. I love it. It caught me by surprise when it was installed several months ago, but it works out great. And you're right, it alleviates a lot of traffic there.
And you're talking now Main Dunstable, right?
Main Dunstable going to Northeastern Boulevard.
Okay.
I think to Commissioner Pappas's point, and I haven't been over there, so I don't know, so this is kind of my walking through the process, is that yellow, amber, or yellow blinking coming north, west, east, both on Manchester Street in both directions the other way?
Yes.
So I can see how that would be a change, but I'm really glad you're monitoring that.
Yeah.
No accidents that, to speak of up
No.
until now?
No.
Okay. And then, one last question. When we go to Dublin, Broad Street to Dublin, we're just talking two ways, left onto Dublin and left onto Broad Street. Is that correct?
Well, the amber flashing arrow would just be for Broad Street eastbound turning left onto Dublin.
Very good. Okay.
Is there a flashing yellow on Northeastern Boulevard turning left onto Main Dunstable?
No.
No. Why is that not done?
Well, we're just trying to service like the main approach, where it's, I'm trying to.
Because it's a T, okay.
It's
yeah,
a
I get
T,
it.
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Moriarty?
I actually have a question about another intersection, if you don't mind, Mr. Husband. I brought this up before. It's Broad Street and the highway. It's been my observation that every morning there's a line of cars apparently looking to turn left to head south to commute to work. And at that area, there's 4 lanes. The other 3 lanes are empty, going straight when it's green, and there's a long line of cars waiting to turn left. I know that it's probably a headache for you. I'm sure you've looked at that many times, but I was just wondering, isn't there a solution? It seems like it's crazy to have, like you said, you hate waiting in these lines when there's no traffic coming the other way. So I was just wondering if you have recently looked at that situation.
I haven't recently. I know that you're talking about Broad Street westbound going on to the southbound turnpike.
Correct.
Yeah. That is a heavy movement, particularly in the early AM hours, and it does back up. Not long ago, it was backing up through the northbound ramp intersection, and we made some adjustments to that. I can take a look at that. I'm not sure.
Could you ever do a double turn lane there?
It's something I can certainly take a look at. I'm not sure how the intersection lines up. Anything that I do there, I'd have to get the blessing of DOT, because that's another intersection that they own that we might maintained for them, but they pretty much own that intersection. So it's something that we can take a look at. It is a very heavy left turn movement, and we have made adjustments in the past to try to increase the time, but we can certainly look at the lane use as well.
Commissioner Pappas.
I did have two other, one of them was on Broad Street generally. I fully agree with the assessment there. But I notice if I'm coming from Nashua North, it's never a problem. It could be, no matter what time of day or night, it can be a Sunday, it's 6 a.m., which I have come back at that early hour to drop kids off. It can be during heavy traffic time. It's never a real problem coming from Nashua North heading in that direction. Conversely, if I'm coming from Amherst Street going up Broad Street towards Nashua North, it can be 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I will have to stop at every single light. Or it can be during heavy traffic time where sometimes I understand it can happen. It seems as if we really did a great job on Broad Street in one direction, and then in the other direction, literally no matter what time of day or night, you're gonna stop at every single light. I don't know if other people have found the same. And I am, that if you're heading towards Nashua North, you're just hitting a lot more lights, and maybe it's just because there are more turns in the other direction. But it just seems as if coming from Nashua North, it's not bad at all. But going to Nashua North, no matter when, the lights just don't seem to mesh.
I can certainly take a look at that. We had those pretty well synchronized with the CMAQ project at one point in time, but it could be that they've gotten out of sync. I mean, they should have be lined up better, but
Those are optically, they're connected with the cable that contains light. I forget what you call that, but aren't those lights connected with?
they're all in the traffic management system, and as part of the CMAQ project, we had them all synchronized with the real-time clocks.
How far up on Broad Street? Does it go beyond the Coliseum Ave National Mall kind of intersection? Does it go
It goes
away?
up to they're synced right up, should be synced right up through the Coliseum Ave at
What about
Broad
Dublin?
Street.
Is that on the same system?
Well, that's far enough away from the Coliseum Avenue where it really isn't any real good reason for it to be synchronized, because typically the traffic coming out of Dublin is pretty light, so it'll service Dublin as the traffic comes out.
Commissioner Pappas.
And I do, again, it's great to have you here. I do have, I have one quick question, and then I did have more of an in-depth question. So I'll start with a quick question first that I got from someone. I think it's where the Micro Academy is. I actually got a call this week that they've had their third accident there, that there's a problem with the lights there.
I'm not familiar with the accidents. They're
One of the directors there told me that they got their third accident.
No, I don't think there is a light there. I think it's.
No, there's not a light there. There's a light just to the west of there at Wellesley and Ledgewood.
I mean, I
And I've
think,
gotten complaints about the Wellesley and one too, but, yeah.
I think what isn't the signage there say right turn only coming out of Micro Academy?
The intersection, I can't recall right offhand. I thought that at the intersection of the westernmost intersection, I thought it was right turn only.
The westernmost, but maybe not the one that's.
But actually, I think we changed that more recently, where it might be right turn only, but as you're coming into where the buses come in the back, it's one way going around the school in the back that way. So you get into the front parking lot, and you can only turn right out from that front parking lot.
So, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Pappas?
How about if I get the specifics on the concern about the micro academy, and then I'll get to my more direct questions about, we did CMAC, and I will tell you, I felt like our light coordination wasn't working that well. And then we put in those items that look like a camera, that a lot of people saying, oh, why are you monitoring with a camera? In different parts of the city that kind of made our lights coordinate a lot better. Why did we have to put those specific, you know what I'm talking about, those white intersections, those white things that look like cameras?
Well, I think I can answer that, which Mr. Husband, but the idea is that those substitute for the cables in the street, because the cables in the street that sense the cars, they get broken by plowing and the like. And so in some instances where there's been a lot of breakage, these cameras are put up to detect where the cars are in the intersection, as opposed to in the street cable.
So there's no street cable on Broad Street? I just feel as if that Broad Street in that one direction has never worked well. So I don't know if that needs those camera things there, but I do understand that at certain intersections, if you have more turns, those intersections you're just going to sit there longer. But I just feel as if when we spent the money on the CMAC, I thought that our light coordination was going to be better than it was, but.
Can you check out, Mr. Husband, the westbound traffic on Broad Street?
On Broad Street, yes.
Lights, and
Yes.
see if you can observe any possible improvements.
Thank you.
And let us know, please.
Yep.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a great topic, and I just have one more location that I want to ask you about because we've never had this topic come up before. So from Main Street, after 3 o'clock till 6 o'clock, getting over to the Hudson Bridge on East Hollis Street, in front of Wendy's and McDonald's, it can take quite a bit of time to go from National House of Pizza just to the bridge. It can take an inordinate amount of time, probably to the point of 10 to 15 minutes. So I happen to go by there, and I live at exit 5, and I've had to get to Londonderry for a certain time to take my this is a number of years ago, this is seven or 8 years ago, to go to the sports zone in Londonderry. It was faster for me to go from exit 5 to the mall in New Hampshire to 93 to the sports zone as opposed to getting over the Hudson Bridge. Last week I had a personal experience, this is where I just have a question, is that the bottleneck, there's several locations where the bottleneck is, but where I see the bottleneck is at the light in front of Infant Jesus School or Church at the bottom of the hill. It seems to me that only a few cars get through that light during that period of time in the afternoon. So what I did was I came down Kinsley Street to East Hollis Street, then I went down Main Street. Actually, I went all the way to McDonald's, took a right, went all the way down to the park, and came up and about, and I was in front of Infant Jesus, and I got through the traffic much faster, because what I think might be happening is, and I don't know the name of this street, but near the fire station where the street goes subterranean, if you will, there's 1 or 2 cars that might be at that light. So
Commercial Street.
Commercial Street. So they go through the light, but it just seems like while they're going through the light, it stays red for the people coming east and west on East Hollis Street. But what I was able to do was come down, is it Alt Street? Not Alt Street. In front of West, and I could take a right, and I beat all those cars that were from McDonald's all the way down to that particular light. I was wondering if that might be someplace to take a peek at some point, And maybe the thing is not to allow the people from Commercial Street to come into that intersection, but I know that's kind of a bigger question, of, you know, maybe making that a one-way, but it just seems like that was what, it appeared to me that that was what was delaying people to go, you know, east and west on East Hollow Street.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a struggle like that between 3 AM and 6 AM. It sounds to me.
3 PM, 6 PM.
3 PM to 6 PM?
Oh, yeah, it's,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought you
this-
said 3
oh, no,
AM
no,
to-
no, this is,
Just go through it.
not in the AM. This is in the
3 PM
afternoon.
to 6 PM? Well, I can check to see if there's some problems with the detection. You know, because there could be. Sometimes there's problems with the detection that throw things off.
Absolutely. And
But
I'm
there's
not looking-
definitely a problem trying to get over that bridge in the afternoon.
Yes, there is, sir.
Around anywhere from 4:30 to 5:30. It's tough, and it's just because there's the one bridge there, and if you get two major feeders, Bridge Street and East Hollow Street.
And my fear is it's only gonna get worse with the Renaissance building being occupied over the next year and a half.
It'll be a challenge.
Yes, sir. Something to think about.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Good thing we have verbatim minutes, Wayne. You don't have to write everything down. Diane will send you the verbatim minutes of.
I got Broad Street westbound.
And I'm quiet tonight. You're lucky. I'm
Thank God.
just playing out the string here. Yeah.
very
I'm
excited.
trying to be quiet.
All right, thank you, Mr. Husband. We will now go
Thank you very much.
on to the administrative department. First item is the SRF loan report. Now, Mr. Patricia, did you say that Lisa's, or Ms. Photo's going to cover that next meeting, or are you going to deal with this now?
No questions, if you had any questions, Carolyn O'Connor couldn't be here neither. So as far as any questions on that, it's there for review. And if you had any questions on it, we could
I
certainly
think
address
there
them
were
next.
questions, right? On that? Were there questions on that?
Well, can maybe, unless somebody else has questions, of course, maybe we could include this, because a lot of this is in regard, obviously in regard to the wastewater treatment plant. Maybe we can cover this when we talk about the WRF and the updated schedule.
The other meeting?
Yeah.
Yep,
Sounds like a good plan.
yep, we could do that.
Okay, we'll put that on the agenda as well. Next informational item is the director's report.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes, go
Oh, sorry. So the fourth, if I got this in, and I apologize, I just want to write this on my agenda. Our next meeting is at the Thursday before the Thursday after Thanksgiving.
Monday? Monday the 20th.
It's the Monday of Thanksgiving. I
Monday.
believe,
Okay,
whatever the
which
date
is, okay, the Monday before Thanksgiving, okay. Thank you. I forgot to write that in my, thank you.
Director's report.
It's actually quite large this month because we're wrapping up a lot of work here in the city, getting ready for winter. This is part of the sewer project, 2017 sewer project on Temple Street. The part of the sewer is going right under the railroad tracks, so they were doing some slip lining in that area there. This is some levee maintenance. 2 light poles were relocated. We had an inspection out there, and they noticed that they were in the easement, so they had to be moved. As part of the paving program on Main Street, the top course is being applied, and that was at the wee hours of the morning. We had to shut down that intersection actually at Ald Street, so that's why they did it at that time of day. This is testing for the paving program on Main Street. They're pulling a core sample out of there to test for compaction. Paving program reclamation on Fairway. Reclamation on Vicus Drive. This photo shows existing asphalt and the gravel base in order to prepare the road for paving. This was the shim course on West Hollis Street. And this is an informational. East Hollis Street is going to be closed this weekend, 7 a.m. Saturday morning through Sunday, 7 p.m. The railroad is going to be pulling out the railroad tracks that go across East Hollis right there by Bob's Pizza, and that whole section has to kind of be put back in one piece and then paved. It's not something that they can do just like a piece at a time, so West Hollis Street will be closed this weekend to work with the railroad to get that intersection taken care of.
I assume we'll be charging them any overtime that we,
Well, this is them, there's some state money. This isn't street department, this is just an informational, let you know, East Hollis Street will be closed. So,
right, but should any of our employees,
East Hollis will be closed. Sidewalk installation on Fairway Ave. We have some more sidewalk completion on Raymond Street. Some sidewalk work in front of Janot's, a sidewalk repair. So there was some large trees that were removed on Webster Street, and we removed the stumps there and fixed the sidewalk there. Also on Franklin Street. This photo is some of the drainage that's going in on Charlotte Ave for the soccer fields. This is some more grading work and getting the field ready for Charlotte Ave soccer fields for the sod. We're doing some paving here at Dr. Chris School for handicap access to the swings, to the playground. Some mill and fill behind City Hall on Garden Street. Some more mill and fill on Taylor Road. New traffic pole was installed for, there was an accident at the corner of Kinsley and Elm. And this slide here was taken yesterday. The mayor was recognizing two of our drivers who were, completed 2 different plow rallies this year. One was the New Hampshire State, and the second one that they just went to and won, both of them was the regional down in Massachusetts. And they actually won that to get a chance to go to the Nationals, which is very exciting.
Did you want to mention your names?
That is Rob LaJoy and Eric Johnson. The September Trail Days were held on September 23rd. Over 30 volunteers participated in Mines Falls. This is a picture of Nick's new pride and joy, his new Toro mower.
So, has Nick used it yet? Have you used it yet?
Here's another picture of some drainage work over at Charlotte Ave for the soccer fields. They were doing some planting at the Hunt Building. 8 shrubs were planted at the Hunt Building by park employees, Derek Taylor, Zach Way, and RJ Lovering. This is the irrigation building going up at Charlotte Ave. That'll house all the water meter, the backflow, in the clock. The senior outing, it'll be a new venue this year at the Radisson Hotel. Tickets will be available November 1st at the Park Rec office. The scarecrows went up on Main Street. The department assisted the Great American Downtown with installing them. The second annual food truck festival was at Holman Stadium. Several thousand people took part in that. That was getting to be a very big event. This next one is a little video of the sod going down at Charlotte Ave.
That's cool. Wow. Who's driving the truck?
That is a contractor that is installing the sod there.
That's cool.
Just to give you a little visual.
That is pretty cool.
How that was, and then the next picture was the sod after it was installed, so we have instant field over there.
When did they do that?
That was just this week,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, I thought I just drove by there and there was nothing, there was still dirt.
That was 42,500 square feet of sod. And how long did it take them?
They started at 9 and they're done by 1.
So, they go pretty quick.
Is that new machine gonna mow it too?
Yeah. This slide here on the 18th, Bicentennial School was at the treatment plant, and they were teaching the kids a little bit about the lab. We have a household hazardous waste day coming up November 4th at the street department. And we also have extended hours for soft yard waste drop-off. The landfill will be open 8 to 4 on Saturdays, November 4th, 18th, and 25th, extended hours. The landfill will be closed Saturday, November 11th, in observance of Veterans Day. Trash collection will be collected on its normal schedule. The landfill will be closed Thursday, November 23rd, in observance of Thanksgiving Day. Thursday's trash will be collected on Friday, and Friday's trash will be collected on Saturday. There was 3 solid waste employees that were recognized also by the mayor this week for their help in getting some residents out of a house on 19 New Searles Road that had caught fire. They happened to be driving by in the trash truck and noticed smoke coming from the building, and they were the first to respond and start banging on the door. Apparently, there was people sleeping in the basement that were able to get out of the house with all their animals. It's Phil Thibodeau, Eric Johnson, and Anthony Bibbo. So nice job to them for their being alert there and helping out with that. And I guess I could have, this was the mayor honored the 3 employees for the life-saving efforts, so that was pictures of that. And that is all I have for the director's report.
Questions? Comments? Commissioner Bergeron.
What is the last day you're gonna pick, a couple residents pick up soft yard waste? What's the last week that you're gonna be doing it?
Yeah, the last week is the last week in November.
Is that what it always is? or
Yes.
Would it potentially, people have asked on Facebook about possibly extending it because with the warm weather we've had, I know at my house, I literally have not raked. I've mowed, but I haven't raked. Usually I'm good for 40 bags, and I've got a lot of green leaves. Is that something we'd possibly consider extending, or?
We could look into seeing
If the
how the
weather
month of November
cooperates.
goes as far as weather goes. You know, getting ready to go into winter, you know, we use a lot of borrowed help over at Solid Waste for soft yard waste season, so we need to get those employees back to their departments to gear up and get ready for winter too. But we can certainly, if there's no snow in the forecast, we can certainly look into extending it, definitely.
That was something that was asked for,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, it's, a lot of people actually were talking about it on Facebook and different things. And I literally haven't raked. My leaves on my house are still green on the trees. So if it snows, then I'm off the hook.
Yeah, we'll monitor it. That's one reason, you know, the residents can certainly bring the stuff into the landfill, and that's another reason that we do extend hours to try to help residents get their stuff in, and we'll monitor it throughout the month of November and see if the weather holds, then we'll look into extending it.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Bergeron?
If there's nothing else, I just briefly wanted to talk to the commissioners and Alderman Siegel and obviously the board. In regard to, I sent you an email about the one-time stipend for the Public Works employees or retirees. So I just wanted to briefly talk about that. I've served on that board for the last almost 4 years now, so certainly my term is coming to an end. I'm the liaison to that board. It is chaired by Frank Anderson, who is a local Nashua kid, who is a very excellent baseball player, but he's an investment banker, and he's an extremely intelligent man. He's on the board. I am. Alderman O'Brien is the aldermanic liaison to that board. For the first 2 years, it was Alderman Dean, and it's since the last couple of years, it's been Alderman O'Brien. Kathy Burby serves on the board from the city, and Ben Basha. And so anyways, that being said, the people, the retirees for the Public Works pension have not had a COLA or anything for 20 years. And how their, and you may know this anyways, but how their pension works is they get 65% of whatever their last year's base salary is. So it's not based on overtime, it's based on it's figured on their base. And so as you know, like a lot of the guys, or employees, I should say, even if they've been here for a considerable amount of time and probably working a lot of overtime and things and making a decent salary at the end of the day with picking up shifts and snow plowing, they get 65% of their base, which in many instances is 40 grand, 45 grand, 46 grand. So you're talking not a lot of money. The other interesting thing is they do not pay into Social Security. So most of the folks who've been here for 30 years, unless they've had any other employment, they don't pay Social Security. So their pension is pretty much it. Most of the people, I think on average, the pension is about $25,000 a year, so we're not talking a lot of money. For some, it's considerably less. Some of the employees, we have still 2 people who are actually collecting 50% when this pension was 50%. It went up to 60%, and I believe, I'm not sure how many years ago, it might have been around 2010 or so, it went up to 65% of whatever their base. But again, we're not talking a lot of money. So we've talked about this for the 4 years I've been on the board. We're a pretty conservative board, obviously, with everything with pensions. We want to ensure it's there. 2 gentlemen, Peter Benet, who used to be the director of Public Works. Was he director when you were mayor the first time? He's a wonderful man. He comes to our meetings. Just a really good, nice gentleman who was director of Public Works for quite a long time. And Lucian Roy, who worked for the city, I think in traffic and I'm not sure whatever else department. He also served as a Public Works commissioner. To make a long story short, they are still in contact with a lot of the retirees from their day. These folks are certainly seniors at this point. Nice people. A lot of the retirees certainly are could use a helping hand. Certainly we want to ensure the pension. So this has been properly vetted through RBC Wealth Management, the actuarials. So we're talking, I don't have the resolution in front of me that I sent you, but I think it was around 69,000 or something. And so what we're doing is a flat payment to the folks. So the 2 people at 50%, those folks are going to get a one-time check of $1,500. The next tier at 60%, they're going to get $1,000, and we did a sliding scale down. And we did it up until the retiree year of, I think, 2016, and those folks would get like $350. Because what we're trying to do is help those who need it the most. And so anyways, there's no action that would be required from this board. It will be from the Board of Aldermen, which it is sponsored, I believe, by the mayor and Alderman O'Brien. And so I just wanted you to be aware. And then certainly this position will need to be filled going forward. So just good. I've loved serving on that board. I have learned so much from Mr. Anderson, Treasurer Fredette's on the board, obviously, the other board members and the investment folks. I've learned a lot. So they've properly vetted all this. We've obviously had a good year in the stock market, so it's about a $69,000 cost that would not affect I think we're at 83% funded, which is pretty decent. So I just wanted you to be aware if it comes up, if anybody would ask you.
I think we're at the stage around commissioners' comments, or, well, let's say commissioners' comments and any comments or questions about the director's report. Commissioner Pappas.
I have a question. When you say it's a one-time, it's a question for
Yes.
Commissioner Bergeron, if that's okay. So is this just for 1 year, or is it?
Yes, this is a
that's-
one-time, again, they've,
So if someone gets $2,000, that's all they're getting?
no
for-
one's gonna get $2,000. The highest is 1,500. The two,
Just for 1 year?
you're gonna get a one-time check. We're just doing a disbursement of a one-time check. Again, we're trying to maintain the fund. But again, some of the people could definitely use a little bit of help.
They're not buying a vacation home?
They're
with
not
that.
buying a vacation home, as you find out. And so this would definitely be a help to them. Again, it's been properly vetted through the finance people, treasurer for debt, of course, RBC Wealth Management, the actuarials. We've literally talked about this for 4 years. So it's just something that we'd like to go forward with. So again,
Thank you.
it was an informational in case, it does come up, and we don't talk about the pension board, but one of the commissioners does sit on that board, and going forward, there'll have to be a replacement, of course. So I just wanted to keep you in the loop.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moriarty.
Yes, Mayor, regarding this legislation, I think it makes sense to also bring that motion before this board for approval, since it is the Board of Public Works, even though, the money is the Board of Aldermen approval, but I just think it would make sense to do that. And again, regarding that legislation, is the wording correctly? Because I think it says Board of Public Works Pension Plan. Shouldn't it be Division of Public Works in the actual legislation?
It could be a typo, yeah.
Okay, but I want to make sure that resolution is,
I don't have any problem referring it over here. Of course, the referrals are done by the president of the board, but I will try to communicate with them and get them to,
the resolution states a stipend to the Board of Public Works Retirement System, which to me seems
Yes,
incorrect.
It is.
I think you're-
So we may want to correct that.
You are correct. That would be incorrect.
okay.
Unless you want to give me a stipend when I leave. Is that what it was? I'll give one to Alderman Siegel as well, since he's,
That's okay. Thank you, though.
Thank you for your time.
we actually did, that's probably a good point. We did actually bring in Attorney Dory Clark a couple times, because the question was whether, it was kind of vague whose authority, whether that even had to go to the Board of Aldermen. And I guess, to be honest, in the past, now you're talking in the past 20 or 25 years ago, that the Board of Public, the Division of Public Work Pension Board did not go to the Board of Aldermen with some of the things. So we did bring in Dory Clark, and she said,
Okay.
yes. So she said it should go to the Board of Aldermen. So certainly, whatever you people feel is appropriate. But again, I did want to make sure that you were in the loop on that, so. It's been referred to one of the committees, I'm not sure which. Budget.
Very good.
Commissioner Ackerman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I just wanted to congratulate the two gentlemen from the Department of Public Works for their recognition of winning the snow rodeo, and wish them luck in the future. And then I just wanted to acknowledge the three gentlemen that saved lives during their work. I had wished I had known that we were going to recognize them at the Board of Aldermen meeting the other night. Perhaps next time we could, I don't know if it was an impromptu thing, but maybe just letting the commissioners know so we could have attended. And then lastly, I had a question for you, Assistant Director. The parking area across the street from the new skate park, looks like it's complete. Do you know how many parking spaces that added to that particular area?
The base code is down. I am not sure exactly how many spaces. Engineer Dukran might. 59?
59 new parking spaces? Okay. If memory served me correctly, I thought we were going to only add about 25, but not a problem. I guess my question is this, and I'm sure that it's going to get done. It looks great. But the first entrance, as you take a right in front of the, coming into that particular area, is all paved now. And last year, I don't know if it was paved, but isn't that the area that the snowplow trucks come into and get sand and salt, that type of area, during the wintertime?
They
Well,
used to come around, they used to come back around there.
Right, will they still do that going forward, since the,
Eventually, there's gonna be a gate along the backside. This year, we're probably going to use that if we can, but if cars are parked.
yeah, I was just wondering, maybe we want to not have cars parked there for that purpose during that type of area, because it was, when I did my ride-along, that's where the snowplow trucks drove in consistently to get salt and sand. I
Yeah,
just-
that area's drastically changed, so we'll evaluate it this winter and see what works best. I don't imagine during a storm, there's gonna be a lot of cars parked there, so I think what John was talking about putting a gate in, we'll end up doing something like that, but, yeah, that area's definitely changed a lot over there, so.
Thanks.
I have some new information concerning our 17-142, the pension resolution. Turns out the Board of Public Works is the correct title. The reason being that this pension system was created before the Department of Public Works existed and was called the Board of Public Works Pension, and that name has just been carried forward throughout the decades.
Thank you.
So,
And we call our superintendent, superintendents, and the director, which is funny, and the divisions.
Interesting.
any other discussion items? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Great, guys.